Hey, welcome to Lunchtime on LinkedIn Live. I'm Rhett Power. I'll be doing a program every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn's new platform. If you are in my network, you're going to get a prompt that I'm live, and so you can join into the room. I'll be talking to today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, best-selling what you have it's CEOs, corporate leaders, and we're going to be talking about their secrets to success and some of the habits that they have that can help us all be better. And the fun part of it is that it's normally interactive. When I can work all the technology at the same time, if I can ever get that down pat, it will be an interactive program where we can take questions from you. And thanks to Social Live and its new platform, that's going to make that possible. So today, I have a good friend of mine that is someone that we're going to have a lot of fun talking today. Leonard Kim. Leonard, you got a new book out it's coming out in October, I think, right?
Yeah, it's coming out in October, so it's a while away.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about it today because you're selling that book already. It's already hit #1 on Amazon, I think. It's called Ditch the Act. It's a reveal the surprising power of the real you for greater success. Leonard is the managing partner of Influence Tree. He's one of the top digital marketers in the world, and he's the most genuine person that I know. Hey, Leonard, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, anytime. Thank you so much for having me, Rhett. It's been a while since we've talked. I think it's been a few months since we chatted on chatted online, and it's been a while since we've talked on the phone too.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. So I want to jump right into the book because this thing I have never seen the number of people that you had lined up to support this. And I mean, the name, it was like, what, 300 endorsements or something crazy? It's like pages and pages and pages of endorsements.
So we did a count. It's around 170, and we collected those in about like a month and a half. And like thinking about it, it's like we have so many endorsements where we're kind of overwhelmed. We don't even know what to do with them all because so many people have just said such great things. I mean, we have a few people who said bad things, and to be fully transparent, we're going to showcase that too. But, you got to see the good and the bad, right? And I think with our world nowadays, we're kind of moving into a more transparent type of industry or environment where people are valuing both the bad and the good. And we've always probably tried to bury the bad, but is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Well, that's kind of what we're talking about today, right? It's sort of embracing the ugly sometimes, I think. Okay, well, that's sort of a great segue into the question. You talk about using failure and mistakes and vulnerabilities to fund, I think that was the quote, to fund success. What do you mean by that?
So if you really think about it, like when you connect to another human, is it because they make an amazing speech where they talk about how great they are?
Mm-hmm.
Not really, right? Or is it when you're just touting all your accolades and talking about all the amazing accomplishments you had? Probably not. If you think about your closest relationships, the reason they're so close is because you get so deep and vulnerable with them. You could cry in the car with them when you're talking about a breakup. You could go over to their house, and maybe they'll even come to your work and cry with you when you're losing your business and you're getting kicked out of your warehouse or whatever it may be. Like, these people know basically almost all the intrinsic details of your life, and that's what builds up that camaraderie with them, where they're vested into your success, where they have your back no matter what. And that's the secret ingredient when it comes to those close, deep relationships that we have. And if we really think about it, if we could go out there and have multiple deep relationships with others, wouldn't that help propel us to success even faster? It's not really the amount of followers you have, the amount of money that you have in the bank, or any of that. But you really have to really move the needle in your life is by sharing parts of your story where people are like, oh, me too. I felt like that too. I feel this pain. and they build empathy and compassion towards you. And that empathy and compassion leads to them going out there and sharing what they feel with you. So
Yeah.
like, I think what the biggest fear is, everyone's scared of going first. Like, let's take that Me Too movement, for example. First person to speak up against Harvey Weinstein. That's got to be like nerve-wracking.
Crazy. Right.
It's like, who has the courage to go and be first? Not many people. It takes one. But what happens after the first person goes and speaks up? Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands more go and speak up too. So no one has a problem going second, third, fourth, fifth. But here's the thing. We all feel like we're the only ones who go through these experiences. I was talking to Dr. Linda F. Williams the other week, and she made a good point. She's like, Leonard, you're so blessed to have gone through all these troublesome experiences at such a young age, before you had kids, before you were married, before you had a house. Because let me tell you something. Everyone goes through all these tumultuous events, and it's a good, and you're blessed because you got those out of the way early. So with that logic, if everyone goes through these tumultuous events, we aren't alone. We could go and share what happened to us, and others could go out there and connect and relate to us at a much deeper level because they've had those same things happen. They're just too scared to share it. And by you sharing first, they could share second and third, and you could go and build those deep relationships with others.
I know the sort of the backstory, but I think the audience doesn't. Because what got you to the point where you could write this book? I mean, your story is incredible. So maybe you want to highlight that a little bit. But I think people should know where the book is coming from in your heart and your mind. Like this whole self-discovery thing, I think, is really what is driving this, right? I mean, you're not saying that this is not an academic thing for you. This is, you learned this in the hard way, right? Like you said, you had a lot of stuff happen early on.
Yeah.
And so this knowledge and this experience is coming from a real place.
So if I really go and look at my life, back before 2011, all the startups I worked with, they all went bankrupt, and I put in my heart, my everything into each of these businesses. But when they failed, and when they went under, no matter if we did $50,000 a month, got 1,000 vendors to support us, whatever it may be, all those achievements were wiped away just along with my resume. And each time I had to go and find a new position, I had to sell myself like no tomorrow because I had nothing to stand upon. And this continued to happen over and over and over again to the point where I had nothing.
What were you feeling like when all that was?
Oh, absolutely horrible. I was staying in bed, depressed on months on end, not having any ability to really get out of bed, going out there, drinking Jameson, partying in bad ways and all this other stuff that people do when they're depressed. And kind of having that moment where I thought that I just wanted to really give up. And I kind of did. I stopped paying my electricity bill for about 6 months. I was showering in the dark. And I had to take my microwave out to the kitchen, or not to the kitchen, to the hallway in the apartment complex, plug it into that power outlet because that one had power and my inside did it just to go and eat food. And, got my eviction notice, told my mom about it. My mom called my grandma, who originally disowned me. My grandma took me back in, got to stay with her for a while, and kind of worked on that journey to come back from it all. And
It's amazing that you did, because a lot of people don't come back out, right?
Oh, I didn't think I would, but I think if my grandma didn't let me stay at her place, I'd probably be living under a bridge. So I can see that feature could have been in store for me too. So there's definitely that.
Okay. I interrupted you, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. So I kind of still felt defeated. I got some entry-level job at American Honda earning $16.24 an hour, which in California is peanuts.
Nothing.
And try to work my way up. But after 2 years of working there, I didn't get a raise, didn't get a promotion, outperformed everyone in the department. And a new healthcare tax came out that took about $90 out of my paycheck, $80 to $90. And that was my $1.64 a month quesadilla lunch money from the cafeteria. So since I didn't have that money anymore, I wasn't able to eat lunch. So I got to a point where I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I realized I needed to do something to make a change. Back in 2012, I broke my ankle and I had 3 months to really reflect. And in those 3 months, I realized that where I am today was exactly where I was supposed to be based off all the decisions I made. So I really had to figure out what made me fall down this path. And I had to do a lot of self-reflection to really discover what actions I took to get me here and what I may have forgot from my childhood. I remembered how my grandfather, Robert L. Landis, raised me, and he raised me with love, compassion, care. He'd sit me on his lap, tell me stories. Um, he'd take me under the car, and I'd do oil changes with him, or watch him do oil changes. He'd bring out the saw and build materials with his hands. Whenever anyone needed help, he'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll be right over." Bring his toolbox and go and help them. He volunteered at the school cafeteria and brought me McDonald's for lunch. But he lived his entire life with giving. And here was me living my entire life with taking. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing something wrong. I should follow his example, follow how he raised me and lead my life with giving. But I didn't really have anything to give. I mean, all I did in my life was just kind of fail and kind of end up in a bad situation. So I realized that maybe what I should do is serve as that bad example that no one should follow. And by going out there and sharing all my hardships and my failures, a lot of people, instead of mocking me, calling me a loser, ridiculing me, um, instead of putting me down, instead they were like, "You're an inspiration. I can't believe you're so bold and you're doing this." And I'm sitting here going, "I'm making $16.24 an hour. What do you mean I'm inspiring?" And it couldn't really click. And it took a while for it to really settle in. But in a year and a half of going out there and sharing my struggles, my vulnerabilities, and my failures, I accumulated 10 million reads on my content. And it's a short amount of time for that to happen. Later, as time progressed, I kind of got, dragged into counting accolades, doing all the things successful people do, and kind of lost my way. But as I kind of went through everything, I kind of pieced everything together and found that the reason for my success was a lot of where my roots came from and sharing those failures, those vulnerabilities, and those hard moments. And that's what drove deep relationships where I have like amazing friendships with people I would have never imagined before.
Right.
Like before, all I knew were like real estate agents, mortgage brokers, car salesmen, like people in the shady industries. And I was just sitting there hanging out with all of them. And then nowadays, or after I started writing and sharing and opening up, I got to know people who graduated from Ivy League schools, people who ran successful businesses, people who worked at top consulting firms like McKinsey and Co., people who were chief financial officers, chief marketing officers, and all these high-level people I never thought I would be able to meet. And they ended up being my friends. And then we have this new type of relationship that I've never really had before, where it's like, I look out for you, you look out for me, and we all look out for each other.
Right. Right. No, I get that. I mean, that's kind of how we ran across each other, right? I think it was either writing for Inc. or it wasn't the McGraw-Hill thing, but I mean, we got connected in that way, right? So that, I mean, you run across people you just would probably never met
Yeah.
that you can, develop these relationships with. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about leaders and CEOs and what, because there's so much noise out there. And I think everybody's starting to realize that even as a CEO or head of a company, you have to build your own brand as well as the company's brand.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you break through all the noise? I mean, I know you talked about being genuine, but what does that really look like how do you get a CEO to sort of admit failure and admit, because how do you do that? What's the advice?
Well, the first thing you have to look at is running a personal brand profitable? That's the biggest question that most CEOs, executive leaders, and employees are going to really think about when running a business and going out there and building their personal brand. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is a bunch of baloney. This doesn't really work. Where's the data that really proves it?" My friend Joe Martin, formerly known as Adobe Joe, who's now the VP over at Cloud App, what he did is when he was working at Adobe, he created their 1,000 person employee engagement group, which is one of the few case studies for a huge employee advocacy program. But
Right.
he tested something. He ran the exact same ad with the exact same copy, exact same image, exact same social intro, exact same everything. He put that up from the Adobe account. Adobe's a Fortune 500 brand. Everyone knows
Right.
who Adobe is. And he put the same ad from his personal account. Guess which one got more clicks?
The personal, obviously.
How many more do you think it got?
4 times.
No, 10.
10. Okay.
So
Okay.
most people hire marketing agencies, consultants to come in to kind of go and generate 15% to 20% more buzz, to lower costs per clicks by 10, 15, 20%. And this right here shows that you could get a 10x result from it. So that right there says, shouldn't your employees, shouldn't your executives, shouldn't your CEO be online and talking about your company? Over at Keck Medicine at the University of Southern California, we've created this plan where we co-brand the physicians and the company, and we go and match them up together, where we tell the physician to go out there and post content from their account, then we'll reshare it from the brand account. That's one of the new things that we're doing over here.
All right. So you're
And
drawing those links, right? The algorithms are picking up yeah. So yeah. Okay. I got you.
just for example, like a normal video that we would post on the brand channel would get around 600 to 2,000 views. When we flipped it around and put it onto brand new social media accounts and unused platforms for the stalker named Mary Simplaski, she ended up with 6,000 views. So that's a 3 times higher viewpoint, 3 to 5 times higher viewpoint by leading with those personal profiles too. Now, when it comes to vulnerability, like with how much noise that we have today, there's really 2 different types of content that we see. There's actually, let me ask you a question. So you're going through content, you see content every day, you're a content creator. How much content wows you?
Mm,
Not zero, it's a little.
10% maybe.
Yeah, 10%. And what
Maybe.
happens when you see that 5 to 10%?
I click on it.
You click on it, and
I
then
look
what
at
do
it.
you do?
I might even engage if it's really compelling. I might even say, "Hey, that was compelling. Great. Thank you."
Awesome. So it's hard, it's few and far in between that you see compelling content. And the reason for that is, let's say we go the thought leadership approach. What does it take for a piece of thought leadership to be like, wow?
I mean, what I tend to do is I probably get stuck in my habits, right? I know who I like to read, right? So it doesn't expand my universe very much, right? There are probably 3, 4, 5, 6 people that get my attention, and I mean, I will stop at their content to see what the topic is, and if the headline doesn't grab me, I still will move on. But I noticed in my mind I stop at those people's content because I normally like what they have, or it's more relevant to what I'm looking at or thinking about.
So the reason why thought leadership is so hard to connect with is you have to take an idea that people have known for like their entire life, like, oh, don't put your eggs all in one basket or something, right? Then you have to go and phenomenally go and break down that concept, talk about your own personal struggles with how you thought this was the truth and went away from it. Break it all down, find some research, back it, then go and put this other compelling argument behind it. And that takes a lot of work. That takes like some people 30 years just to figure out one, right? And the reason it's so hard to find those great pieces of content is because they're so hard to really go and create. Now, when we think about thought leadership for executive leaders, sure, there's a lot of things that haven't been shared yet because a lot of executive leaders haven't shared their deep insights that they learned over the 20 to 30 years of their career. That gives you a little bit of a competitive edge compared to the people who create new content. But what gives it that compelling edge, that makes it like noteworthy and memorable is when you incorporate your personal story elements into it. And not just the
Okay.
happy personal story elements, it's like the good, the bad, and your version of the ugly. Like, let's look at Finding Nemo, for example. Is Nemo's dad the most interesting fish you've ever seen? Pretty
No.
lame character, right? But you
Pretty
follow
much.
him because of his journey, how he goes out there and meets Dory, how he goes out there and almost gets eaten by sharks, goes surfing with the turtles, and eventually finds his son. So what does that mean? You could be the boringest, lamest person in the world, but if you go out there and you start sharing that story, not just the good, because we have a culture nowadays where we're all designed to share the good, but sharing that good, the bad, and your version of the ugly, you kind of show this compelling uh, self where you're showing your multiple layers, kind of like what they do with TV development, where in Game of Thrones and Billions and everything like that, the person's not always the good guy. They're the good person, the bad person, the horrible person, the compassionate person. And all those pieces are part of your character. You can't just display one side. That's not how people buy into you. It's by sharing all sides of you.
Okay. That's that seems like, I mean, you do it so well, and that it is so easy. We're just not we're not always conditioned to do that, right? I mean,
Well,
how do you? Yeah.
I don't think we are conditioned to do that because, like, in your generation, it was mostly keeping up with the Joneses, and my grandparents' generation, it was mostly walk down the street, greet people, say hi, smile to them. So that kind of became a little bit of a disconnect. Then in my generation, it's who could keep up with the Joneses with how happy and successful they are.
Mm-hmm.
So you open up Instagram, for example, and what you see, everyone's on vacation, everyone's having the best moments of their lives, everyone's going out there and sharing how the amazing food they're eating, the amazing fashion that they're doing, whatever it may be. And in the last 5 years, we've been conditioned to not share the bad moments because that deserves to, that's our dirty laundry. We shouldn't be airing it. We should just be talking about the happy moments. So we created this culture where for the last 5 years, everyone's been sharing their very best moments and no one's been sharing their dirty laundry. What happened? Did all that dirty laundry go away?
No.
No, it didn't. What happened is I'm here taking this selfie, going, smiling, looking happy as I
Life is
can.
great.
And then in reality, I'm sitting here thinking, I just got in a fight with my wife. This thing sucks. What am I supposed to do? And I have to go and put this out there and lie to people when I'm putting that picture up there. Now, the other side of it is I'm sitting at home. I'm flipping through my phone. I'm depressed. I had 2 drinks because my wife won't talk to me. I'm looking through all these happy pictures. Everyone looks so happy. I feel more disconnected than ever, more alone than ever because I have no human connection. And now, since people are conditioned to only go out there and share their happy moments, if you go, we have 5 levels of exposure, level 1 to level 5. And we break these down into things called the exposure resume. Level 5 exposure is something you don't share, like pornography, politics, and religion, because those could turn into endless debates without any factual backing. All
Right.
the way up to level 1. Level 1's like spilling coffee on your shirt, tripping over yourself. Level 4 is like losing a business or going out there and getting a divorce. When you have to kind of gradually work your way up to sharing that level 4 exposure. Because if I go out there and I talk about me failing my business for the very first time, and for 5 years I talked about happy content, everyone's going to be like, Leonard, you're having a breakdown. Are you having a midlife crisis? And they're all going to avoid me.
Right.
But if I go out
Turn
there,
off.
yeah, it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
But if I go out there and I sprinkle in, oh, I spilled coffee on my shirt. Oh, I got in an argument with my spouse. Oh, I got in an argument with my business partner. Oh, and then we start working our way up to that by still sharing the good, but adding in our version of the ugly too. Then when we have a exponential crisis, like those level 4 exposures, and we share it, people are going to come out of the woodworks to help us instead of pushing us away. Plus,
Right.
also, if we have prior level 4 exposures, we could go and share those and have those go and connect and drive deep connections with others too.
What do you think? What do you think about this Tony Robbins thing?
Well,
You
so
think he's doing it right? You think he's handling the crisis the right way?
Well, one of the things that you have to consider is Tony Robbins, he's like 18 years into his personal branding journey. He's been going out there and building things up for so long. He's built such a strong reputation with his community. And I kind of looked at that whole ordeal and looked at like his follower accounts, and he wasn't fazed by it.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually,
it looked like he actually had an outpouring of support. I
yeah.
mean, I thought it was pretty interesting. What, um, so what platforms, if I'm a CEO I'm listening to this and I say, okay, then they go out and they get the book and so what platforms now are a good place to start?
Well, one of the things is when we think about what to do, we have to kind of take an omnipresent approach. Like, let's think about it from a search perspective. How do I
Okay.
make sure that content is going to be found if someone Googles it, looks it up on Facebook, looks it up on Twitter, looks it up on SoundCloud, looks it up on Spotify, looks it up on Alexa, whatever it may be? Any type of search, whether it's visual, YouTube, and other platforms like that, whether it's by text or whether it's by social media or whether it's by audio, you want to make sure your content is searchable. So if you think with that approach, what that means is you don't start with one platform. Instead, what you do is you go out there and you syndicate your content onto every single platform you can. That means putting a written article onto Quora, Medium, LinkedIn, your website, and any other publishing platform that you could find. Taking your, let's say you're making video content, making that into a YouTube video, putting that natively on LinkedIn, putting that on Twitter, putting that onto Facebook, putting it everywhere you can. Taking that video and embedding it back into that article so people have the option to either read or watch the video. And then also taking it from the audio approach and stripping out that video and just leaving the audio and then running a podcast for that. So then that's
Mhm.
searchable on Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever other platform it may be. Because what you want to do is you want to make sure people can find your content anywhere. Now, the other side of taking that omnipresent approach is some platforms have built-in models where they go out there and push your content out for you. Like if you follow specific topics on Quora and you don't follow anyone, you're still going to get a feed of new content streaming to you. What that allows a content creator to do is if they have no people who follow them and they write on the topic like life advice, which may have like 1 million followers, people
Right.
who follow that life advice topic are still going to be able to see that content too. So you can go out there and make a name for yourself from scratch. LinkedIn is going to push your content to your second and third degree connections that you've never even spoken to before. Your website and everything is going to be set up so people could go out there and search for your content and end up eventually finding it. So if you kind of take this omnipresent approach, that's how you go out there and you get the eyeballs, because now everyone's going to be able to see it. But you have to kind of follow that content creation model where you're making that blockbuster type content, and that's why incorporating those personal stories.
Right. Okay. Good advice. Want to wrap up here because we've got, I know you've got a schedule to keep. Briefly talk about, I know in the book you talk about the 7-step process for driving brand differentiation and growth. You want to briefly talk about that?
Sure. Well, our editor changed it into 8 steps, and they turned 1 chapter into 2, so now it's 8. Who knew?
Okay.
The new second step is the 313 method, which I can give you zero insight on because that was something that Brian created, and I think it has to do with the problem, solution, and market. But what we do is we go through this 8-step process with something called an exposure resume, and an exposure resume, what it is typically it's like your typical resume where you talk about all the accolades that you've had in your career, but instead you flip it around and talk about all the bad things that happen. And from that exposure resume, what we do is we create a bio out of that. So we get your whole personal story, because the bio is the most important thing that you have on the internet. We create a personal brand strategy. So then we figure out the long-term vision of where you want to go. Move into that 313 method, teach you how to go out there and create content, how to go out there and get more views on your content, how to go out there and do video if you're not familiar with it, because there's a huge learning curve for that. How to
Mhm.
go out there and build relationships with others by starting out first and reaching out first instead of having it be the other way around. Success stacking, which is taking one success and using that to get another one and another one and another one. Then we kind of close out. And the book kind of goes through 3 different phases. The first is just like everyone has no probably going second, third, fourth, or fifth, or whatever it may be. Ryan and I, we lead by example by telling our personal stories and our struggles. So you could feel comfortable going out there and sharing. Then we move into building a case on why it's so important to go out there and share your struggles and how they actually lead to you becoming bulletproof as opposed to being the things that are used against you, to the actual process of how to actually decipher and maneuver through building your personal brand through a ton of worksheets.
Well, hey guys, ditch the act. I know it's coming out in October. It's already the list of people who have gotten behind this book and is just phenomenal. And I happen to be one of them. I think you gotta go out and get your advanced copy of it, because I think it's if you're trying to build a personal brand, if you're trying to strategize and put a plan together to do that, and so that you can move more product and sell more product and be more successful, this is part of the equation, and I think this book is going to really help you. I know they can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any other place, CEO, Reach, probably. Anywhere, where can they order advanced copies?
I saw that you could also get it at Target now, which is kind of interesting. I never knew Target sold books. Also, we're going to be setting up ditchtheact.com and a little bit. It's not fully done yet. It's got the wireframe, all the contents done for it, but it's in the process of being built. Since it's still early, it's still May, and the book's out in October, so we've been slowly working on piecing all those things together. But you could pre-order from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and soon ditchtheact.com.
Well, my suspicion is, my friend, this is going to be a big bestseller. So, congrats, and I think it's full of really, really helpful information, and I appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me here, and thank you so much for the kind words about the book. I thought it was just okay, but a lot of people think it's great, so that's cool.
No, when we write books, I know the feeling. You feel like there's so much more you could have done. It could have been so much better, but I think maybe we're a little perfectionist in that way. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it. That could really be it.
Because they're hard to write, right? It's not an easy process.
Oh, it's so difficult. It's like I don't know, one of the most nerve-wracking things that you could do. Like, I think I went through a few different breakdowns in the process because I'm like, why is there so much work in such little time?
Yeah, and actually writing with a co-author is actually harder, I think, because you're trying to mesh, 2 visions together. And my first book was like that, and I think that took us 4 or 5 years to write. It was a labor of love, but it was tough.
Yeah, and I think it was pretty difficult because we're 2 different polarizing personalities when you kind of compare us together, and we both have different viewpoints on the same thing. So, but the good thing about having that is it forces both of us to put our viewpoints in and kind of build a scale out of it. And that's kind of how we came up with the 5 levels of exposure. Because I'd be like, go out there, share your biggest vulnerability. And Ryan would be like, no one's ever going to do that. I'm like, why not? I did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this is Rhett on LinkedIn Live. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we'll be live at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got a great lineup next week, so tune in then. And we'll hopefully have all the technical issues that we had this morning worked out. But take care. Have a good week. All right.
Yay.
Yeah.